My parents laughed and said, "Your sister gives without keeping score." I stood up and said, "I've given you $33,480. Mom blinked and replied, "That's not giving, that's just being a daughter." My hands still tremble when I think about that morning, staring at my banking app, watching my entire world shatter. $3,200. Gone. And the reason? A Blake family emergency, a code word for a betrayal so deep, it changed everything. I never authorized that transfer. My fingers were literally shaking as I scrolled, double-checking, praying it was a mistake. But no. Right there, in bold black, it said Blake family emergency, dated 9:43 last night. While I was sound asleep, blissfully unaware, thousands of my hard-earned dollars were just gone. Then my phone buzzed. It was Mom. Her voice, bright and chirpy, bubbled through the speaker. "Serenity, honey. Have you heard from Isla? Oh, you won't believe what she's done with her apartment. An absolute transformation." I pressed my palm to my forehead, a headache already pounding behind my eyes. "No, Mom, I haven't." "What kind of transformation?" And then it came, a cascade of details. "Oh, she finally got that gorgeous sectional she's been eyeing, Italian leather, darling, can you believe it? And the most beautiful, real wood entertainment center, not that cheap pressed board nonsense. Her place looks like it jumped straight out of a home magazine." My throat tightened, the room started to spin. "How nice. Must have cost a fortune." Mom just laughed lightly. "Well, you know your sister. She has such exquisite taste. Anyway, we're all going over for dinner Friday. Dad's picking up steaks." That's when something inside me snapped. "Mom," I said, my voice eerily calm, despite the volcano erupting in my gut, "did Isla just happen to spend exactly $3,200 on furniture?" There was a pause. Just long enough. Well, I wouldn't know the exact. Before she could finish, my phone beeped again. It was Dad. I didn't even wait for Mom's response. I just switched calls. "There's my responsible girl." Dad boomed, his voice too loud, too cheerful. "Just checking in about that little transfer. Meant to call you last night, but got caught up watching the Mariners game." The sheer casualness of it, like he was asking about a borrowed garden hose, sent a scorching wave of heat straight up my neck. "You took money from my account?" The words sliced out, sharp as knives. Now, he countered, dropping into that smooth, reasonable tone he always used to explain why things had to be his way. "Took isn't the right word. Your sister needed some help. And we know you're always good for it. We gave her your account information a while back, just for emergencies." My blood ran cold. "A leather couch is an emergency, Dad." "Serenity, come on," he sighed, like I was the difficult one. "We're family. What's yours is ours. You've always understood that. Your sister needed to make her place presentable. She has colleagues coming over." I closed my eyes, fighting a fresh wave of dizziness. "Dad, you can't just listen, I've got a meeting," he cut me off. "We'll talk Friday at Isla's. Place looks fantastic, by the way. You'll be proud of what your contribution accomplished." And then, the line went dead. My contribution? As if I'd volunteered. Stunned, I stared at my phone. A text alert chimed. It was Isla. A photo popped up, her small living room, dwarfed by a sleek gray sectional and a massive, ornate mahogany entertainment unit. The text beneath it read, "Thanks, sis. You're always so good with money. Dinner Friday at 7. Bring wine." I sank onto the edge of my bed, a tsunami of memories washing over me. I was 14 when Dad lost his job. The family Buick needed a new transmission, and Mom sat at our kitchen table, calculator in hand, bills spread like a losing poker game. "We'll have to cancel your band trip," she'd said, not looking up. "We need that money for the car." I remember going to my room, pulling out the coffee can where I'd been saving for college since I was 10. $623. My entire childhood, saved from birthdays, Christmases, odd jobs. I put it on the table. "This should cover it, Mom. I don't need to go to college right away." She'd cupped my face, tears in her eyes. "You're the responsible one, Serenity. The steady one. Not like Isla, she's all heart, but no sense. This family would fall apart without you." That was the first time. It wouldn't be the last. My first paycheck at 16? Gone to Eastlaw's cheerleading uniform. My scholarship celebration dinner? Cancelled because Dad needed new tires. Year after year, it was the same song, emergency after emergency, always with the same refrain. We're family. We need you. You're our rock. And every single time, that warm glow of their approval, their gratitude, their love, conditional as it was, kept me coming back. My hands were still shaking, but this time with a different kind of resolve. I navigated to my bank's website, changing everything: passwords, security questions, contact info. I set up alerts for any transaction over $20. Then I called the bank's fraud department. I need to report unauthorized access to my account, I said, surprised by the steady ring in my voice, even as tears streamed down my face. 20 minutes later, after verification and explanations, the rep assured me they'd flagged the account, though couldn't guarantee recovery. I hung up. Next, I opened the family group chat. Taking a deep breath, I typed, "My account is not a family ATM. This stops now." Hit send. And put the phone down. It rang within seconds. Dad. I braced myself. What the hell is this message supposed to mean? He roared, no greeting whatsoever. After all we've done for you? This is the thanks we get? Something inside me cracked, but not like breaking glass. More like the sound of ice shifting in spring. A fundamental reordering. A change. Mid-lecture, I pressed the end call button. For the first time in my entire life, I hung up on my father. The phone immediately started buzzing again, but I didn't care. I turned it off completely. The silence that followed? It felt like the first clean breath after a lifetime spent underwater. Later that same day, my kitchen table was covered in bank statements, spread out like evidence from a crime scene. 5 years of transactions. Neat, clinical rows, each one a fresh stab of betrayal. My highlighter squeaked against the paper as I marked another one, $420. Blake Family Travel Fund. A travel fund I never, ever authorized. Just hours earlier, I'd walked into the bank, still reeling from hanging up on Dad. The teller's concerned glance when I'd requested 5 years of statements told me my face was a raw, open book. $32 for the printouts, Miss Blake, he'd said. My laugh had sounded hollow. Small price, I'd muttered, to see where my money's been going. Now, as midnight crept closer, the yellow highlighted sums formed a sickening pattern. $300 here, $250 there. Small enough to fly under my radar, but together, they added up to a mind-blowing $33,480 missing from my future. I pressed my palms against my eyes until stars burst behind my eyelids, trying to push away the nausea. My laptop pinged. A notification from the credit monitoring service I'd signed up for just that afternoon. My stomach clenched as I clicked the alert. Recent inquiry from National Mortgage Corporation. A mortgage? I'd never applied for a mortgage. Then an email, a loan. Application confirmation, submitted yesterday in my name, with my social security number. The monthly payment address? My parents' house. My phone buzzed again. Mom's text. Just checking in, sweetie. Dad's cooling down. We know you're stressed about money. We all are, but family helps family. You'll understand when you're older. Sleep tight. I dropped the phone like it was burning me. The casual dismissal, as if I was just a tantruming child who'd eventually see things their way. My eyes fell on another bank statement, a recurring monthly payment, $746.50 to NMC Home Loans. Directly from my account. The room spun. They'd been making their house payments with my money. My father's voice from 3 years ago echoed in my head, just a temporary arrangement, Serenity. 6 months tops. That temporary arrangement never ended. I pulled my laptop closer, opening a new spreadsheet. Column headings appeared as I typed: date, amount, description. For whom? The data flowed from the highlighted statements into digital cells. Each entry was another brick in the wall between the naive me of yesterday and the person I was becoming tonight. The final tally glowed on the screen, $33,480. This isn't help anymore, I whispered to the empty apartment. It's maintenance. A system. And it has 3 key players. Dad, the architect, the mastermind, cloaking financial misconduct in fatherly wisdom. Isla, the beneficiary, floating through life on my sacrifices, oblivious. Mom, the enabler, wielding guilt and emotional manipulation, twisting exploitation into love. I opened a new browser tab, searching for local banks. By dawn, I'd opened an account at First Republic under a new email address my family didn't know existed. Serenity's future fund, I named it. Its first deposit? $200 I'd been saving for Dad's birthday fishing trip. At 9:30 a.m., Marcus from accounting stopped by my desk, coffee in hand. His eyes drifted to the bank statements partially visible in my bag. Family financial drama, he asked, his voice low. Only recognized it because I lived it, he said, placing a sticky note with a phone number on my desk. Financial advisor who helped me when my brother was draining my accounts. She specializes in family situations. By lunch, I had an appointment. By 3 p.m., Rachel, a colleague who barely knew me, offered her guest room. If things get nuclear with your folks, she'd said. By evening, I was sitting across from Dr. Winters, a therapist specializing in family dynamics, fidgeting with a tissue as she reviewed the documents. What you're describing is financial abuse, Serenity, she said, her voice clear, without an ounce of judgment. It's remarkably common in families, especially with the member perceived as most stable. My voice cracked. But they're my parents. And Isla's my little sister. Dr. Winters simply nodded. Boundaries aren't cruelty, Serenity. They're clarity. You can love your family without funding their lifestyle at the expense of your own future. That night, I made 3 phone calls and sent 2 emails. I removed myself as an authorized user on every family credit card. I blocked all electronic access to my accounts. And I reported the fraudulent loan application. The glow of accomplishment lasted until my head hit the pillow. Then, the doubts crept in, a venomous tide. What kind of daughter cuts off her parents? What if they can't make their house payment? What if Isla blames me when she can't maintain her lifestyle? Sleep utterly refused to come, as decades of conditioning waged war against this fragile new boundary. Every creak of my apartment sent my heart racing, convinced Dad would appear to demand an explanation. Every distant siren sounded like Mom's disappointed sigh. I stared at the ceiling, counting the hours, fighting the urge to undo everything, to return to the safety of compliance, to be the good daughter again. But the memory of that spreadsheet, $33,480, my future, siphoned away one emergency at a time. It was stronger than any guilt. Another dawn broke, and I hadn't slept. But for the first time in my adult life, I had said no to the people who had raised me to always say yes. 2 days later, my phone chimed again. It was the 3rd text that morning from Aunt Marjorie. Honey, your parents have sacrificed everything for you. How can you be so selfish when they're struggling? I set the phone face down, watching steam curl from my coffee mug. The onslaught had begun with Dad's carefully crafted email to the extended family, a masterpiece of selective truth. In his version, I was the ungrateful daughter, hoarding wealth while my poor parents faced financial ruin after a lifetime of generosity. The story ripped through the Blake family network with the speed of a wildfire. Damn it. I scrubbed a hand across my face when the phone rang again. Aunt Marjorie. Again. I silenced it, but the voicemail notification appeared seconds later. Serenity, it's your Aunt Marjorie. The Bible says to honor thy father and mother. Your uncle and I are very concerned about your behavior. Call me back immediately. Before I could process this latest guilt grenade, an email slid onto my screen from Pastor Williams. We will see you at service Sunday. I understand your family is going through a difficult time. Remember, forgiveness is a cornerstone of faith. My stomach nodded. Dad had involved the church. I opened Instagram, trying to clear my head, and immediately regretted it. Isla's latest post showed her sprawled dramatically across her new leather sectional. The caption, "Some people value money over family loyalty. Blood should mean more than dollars. Family first." 23 sympathetic comments followed, including 3 from my cousins. The final blow that day arrived at work. My boss, Sandra, called me into her office, her expression carefully neutral. I received an anonymous email expressing concern about your financial stability, she said, sliding a printed email across her desk. I want to assure you this won't affect your position here, but I thought you should know. I scanned the message, instantly recognizing my father's formal writing style, despite the unfamiliar email address. The knot in my stomach solidified into a hard ball of pure rage. Thank you for telling me, I managed to say, my voice tight. I'm handling some family boundary issues. My finances are completely stable. Back at my desk, I pulled out the new leather notebook I'd bought myself yesterday, a small act of self-care. Inside, I was building a detailed documentation system, dates, amounts, transaction numbers, all chronologically. 5 years of financial drainage transformed into irrefutable evidence. I opened my banking app, navigating to the new savings account at a completely different bank. The automatic transfer had gone through, for $100, the exact amount I used to send to my parents monthly. For once, that money was staying mine. My phone pinged. A reminder for my therapy appointment. Dr. Keating specialized in family boundary issues. After just 2 sessions, the weight on my shoulders had lightened fractionally. Yesterday, she'd suggested creating a family contact protocol, specific times and methods. You accept communication on your terms, she'd said. Control the battlefield. Right now, they're attacking from all sides, whenever they want. Change the rules of engagement. Her words steadied me. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't selfish. I was finally claiming what was always rightfully mine. My support group met Wednesday evenings in a community center basement. 6 of us, sitting in a circle, sharing stories of financial exploitation by family. Marcus from accounting, who'd introduced me, had overheard my frantic call to the bank. They'll escalate before they back down, warned Beverly, a silver-haired woman who'd spent 30 years supporting her gambling-addicted brother. The extinction burst is the worst part. Be ready for a big move. The big move came Sunday morning. Dad's text, family meeting. Our house, 2 p.m. non-negotiable. I called Rachel immediately. They're staging an intervention, I told her. I'll be your getaway driver, she said without hesitation. Text me if you need extraction. I'll park around the corner. The familiar drive to my parents' suburb felt utterly different that day. My hands didn't tremble on the steering wheel. The spreadsheets, the bank statements, the transaction histories in my binder, they had transformed my hurt into clarity, my confusion into certainty. Mom opened the door before I even knocked, her smile brittle, forced. Serenity, honey. We've missed you. The living room was arranged for maximum impact. Dad sat at the head of the coffee table, a calculator and bills spread before him like battle plans. Isla occupied the couch, her eyes already glistening with practiced tears. Mom guided me to a lone chair, positioned to face all 3 of them. We've worked out a solution to this misunderstanding, Dad began, sliding a typed document toward me. A contribution plan that worked for everyone. I scanned the paper. $800 monthly, automatically transferred to their account, plus extra for seasonal expenses and family emergencies. This is reasonable, Dad continued. You've always been the responsible one. The family needs you to step up. Isla nodded vigorously. We're counting on you, sis. For a fleeting moment, that familiar old guilt rose up. But then I remembered Beverly's words from group. They counted on me for decades because I never counted what it cost me. I placed my binder on the coffee table, open to the summary page, the total highlighted in yellow, $33,480. I've been keeping track, I said, my voice calmer than I felt. Every dollar. Every emergency. Every non-emergency, disguised as a crisis. Dad's face flushed crimson. That's not relevant to I'm your daughter, I cut him off, not your ATM. Isla's tears spilled over right on cue. You're destroying this family over money. The accusation hung heavy in the air. 6 months ago, it would have shattered me. Today, the words simply bounced off my newly constructed boundaries. No, I replied, looking directly at her, you destroyed it by making love conditional. Mom gasped. Dad spluttered. Isla launched into dramatic sobs. I stood, retrieving my binder, but deliberately leaving the summary page on the table. My phone buzzed. Rachel. Standing by if needed. Marcus texted too. Remember what we practiced. You've got this. Dad rose, towering over the coffee table. If you walk out that door, he threatened, you're saying money matters more than family. I paused at the threshold, remembering Dr. Keating's advice about exit lines. Keep it simple. Don't get drawn into debate. I love you all, I said. But that doesn't mean you get to take everything I have. When you're ready to discuss actual repayment, or at least an acknowledgement of what you've taken, call me. I walked out while they were still sputtering, closing the door firmly behind me. Instead of starting my car, I turned off my phone completely. The silence wrapped around me like a protective cloak. For the first time in 5 years, my Sunday afternoon belonged to me alone. No family crisis to manage. No emergency transfers to arrange. No emotional wreckage to clean up. I drove to an upscale grocery store I'd always considered too expensive. Inside, I bought a single container of imported Greek yogurt. $8 for something I denied myself 100 times while sending thousands to my family. The first spoonful tasted like pure victory. Monday morning, I dared to turn my phone back on. An avalanche of notifications instantly buried me. Texts, voicemails, emails, all variations of guilt and anger. But one stood out, an email from Dad, subject line, family emergency. Read immediately. My finger hovered over the delete button. A calendar reminder popped up, Isla's family birthday dinner tonight. The choice was stark, maintain my boundary, or fall back into the familiar pattern. Let's see how real this emergency really is, I whispered to the empty room, setting the phone aside without opening the email. For once, I'd attend to my own emergencies first. My phone stayed silent all morning. By noon, a voicemail from Mom buzzed through. Serenity, honey, did you get your father's email? Call us back, please. Her voice was still coated in sugary sweetness, but underneath, I could feel a thread of tension pulling tight. I set the phone face down, focusing on my quarterly budget spreadsheet. The numbers aligned perfectly, each cell balanced to the penny. If only family could be so orderly. 2 hours later, another voicemail. Serenity, it's Mom again. I don't know if you're getting our messages, but this is serious. Please call back immediately. The old, familiar guilt rose like bile, but I swallowed it down, remembering Rachel's words from lunch. They're testing your boundaries. Stand firm. By 5 o'clock, Mom's third voicemail stripped away all pretense. Serenity Blake, I don't know what game you're playing, but Isla's account is overdrawn, and she has that shopping trip with her work friends tomorrow. She can't back out now. What would people think? Call us immediately. I almost laughed. The emergency wasn't a hospital visit or a broken furnace. It was Isla's shopping spree. For the first time in my adult life, I drove home without calling them back. The next morning, my office phone rang at 9:17 a.m. Serenity, Janine from reception said, her voice tight, there's someone here to see you. Your parents? They say it's urgent. Ice slid down my spine. I'll be right there. I rounded the corner into the reception area and stopped cold. Dad stood with his arms crossed, face flushed. Mom clutched her purse, eyes darting nervously around our modern office space. There she is. Dad boomed, as if announcing me at a family reunion. Too busy to answer calls from your own parents? Janine shifted uncomfortably. Two designers paused by the water cooler, not even pretending not to listen. Dad, Mom, this isn't appropriate. I'm at work. And I'm your father. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to what he probably thought was a private whisper. Isla needs help. Family helps family. We can discuss this later. Not here. No, we'll discuss it now. His finger jabbed the air between us. You've always been stubborn, but this is ridiculous. After everything we've done for you. Douglas. Mom whispered, tugging his sleeve. People are watching. Let them watch, he snapped. Maybe they should see what kind of daughter refuses to help her own sister. Isla's crying at home right now. Marcus appeared at my side, his presence solid and calm. Everything okay here, Serenity? Dad's eyes narrowed. And who are you? A colleague, Marcus answered evenly. One who thinks this conversation might be better continued elsewhere. This is family business. Dad barked. And this is a place of business, I countered, finding strength in the simple truth. I can't help you today. Can't or won't. Dad's voice rose again. You've changed, Serenity. All these years we raised you right, and suddenly you're too good for your own family. The entire office had gone silent. Even the phones seemed to hold their breath. Sir, Janine stood, phone in hand. I need to ask you to lower your voice, or I'll have to call security. Security? For a father visiting his daughter. Dad laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. What kind of place is this? Dad, please. No, you please. Act like family for once instead of some cold-hearted. That's enough. A firm voice cut through. Linda from HR stood in the hallway, arms crossed. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I'm not going anywhere until my daughter. Yes, you are. Linda stepped forward. Either voluntarily or with security's assistance. Your choice. For a moment, I thought he'd back down. Then his jaw set. Fine, he snarled. But this isn't over, Serenity. Linda signaled, and 2 security guards appeared as if summoned by magic. They didn't touch Dad, just stood there, waiting. We raised you better than this, Mom hissed as they walked toward the exit. I hope you're proud of yourself. The doors closed behind them. The silence in my ears rang until Marcus squeezed my shoulder. You okay? I nodded, though nothing felt okay. That was your dad, huh? Linda asked quietly. The one you mentioned was pressuring you financially? Yes. Well, she said, her expression softening. Now I see what you're dealing with. Take 15 if you need it. And Serenity? My door's open if you want to talk. Back at my desk, I opened my laptop to 15 notifications from Facebook. Isla had posted a family photo from last Christmas. Mom, Dad, and her, carefully cropped to remove me. The caption made my stomach clench. Family means standing by each other through thick and thin. True loyalty can't be measured in dollars. Blood is thicker. Family first. Comments poured in. You 3 are such an inspiration, from Aunt Marjorie. Family above all else, from Uncle Pete. A dozen cousins and family friends offering sympathy. My hands shook, but I typed my response. Interesting definition of loyalty. Here's mine. April 3rd, $487 for Isla's car payment. May 15th, $350 for Dad's business investment. June 8th, $900 for Mom's surprise anniversary trip. July 27th, $3,200 for Isla's emergency furniture. Total family loyalty this year, $11,837. Just facts, no judgment. Actual numbers. I hit post, then immediately closed the browser, my heart hammering. I had never publicly challenged their narrative before. My phone buzzed. Rachel. Just saw your comment. Perfect response. Facts only. How are you holding up? Before I could answer, a private message appeared. My cousin Jennifer. They did the same to my mother for years. Call me if you need to talk. Another notification. Linda had shared my post with a simple, truth matters. Marcus commented with a thumbs up emoji. Even my boss, who I didn't know was Facebook friends with me, liked my comment. My phone rang. Rachel. I drafted a longer response if you want to post it, she said, skipping hello. Nothing inflammatory. Just the facts laid out clearly. Thanks, I replied, but I think the numbers speak for themselves. They sure do. How's the fallout so far? Nuclear. Dad and Mom showed up at my office. Security had to escort them out. Jesus, Rachel whistled. That's next level. Linda from HR saw everything. She's been surprisingly supportive. Good. Document everything. Marcus had texted, too, offering to back me up in the family group chat. I laughed, the sound startling in its genuineness. When did I build such an army? When you started standing up for yourself, Rachel's voice softened. My mom wants you to know you're welcome at Sunday dinner this week. No strings attached. A text from my therapist popped up, just checking in. We can move our session up if needed. Remember the language we practice for setting boundaries without escalating. Then, an email from my financial advisor, quarterly update. Your emergency fund is up 17% since restricting unauthorized access. Congratulations. Finally, my boss appeared at my desk. Hey, Linda filled me in. Take the rest of the week if you need it. Family stuff is brutal. This wave of support buoyed me through the afternoon, a life raft in the storm of family chaos. By evening, I was bracing for round 2 of attacks. My phone rang, Mom. I almost sent it to voicemail, but something, intuition maybe, made me answer. Hello. Serenity. Her voice sounded different. Smaller somehow. I'm calling from the grocery store parking lot. Your father doesn't know. Okay, I said, suddenly cautious. I saw your post. A pause. Those numbers, are they accurate? Yes, Mom. I have records of every single transfer. The silence stretched, long and heavy. I heard her shaky inhale. Maybe we've been unfair. My throat tightened. Maybe. Your father and Isla are arguing, she continued. About money. About who deserves what. Another pause. I've never seen them fight like this before. I didn't offer solutions or comfort. For once, I just listened. Aunt Marjorie called. And Uncle Pete. They're asking questions about our finances. About why we need so much help. Her voice caught. I don't know what to tell them. The truth would be a start, I said softly. Mom sighed. I should go. Your father will wonder where I am. Okay. Serenity. Yes. She stopped. Then, softer. This isn't how I thought things would turn out. After she hung up, I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset paint Seattle's skyline in shades of amber and gold. For the first time in years, I felt the scales tipping, not just in my favor, but towards something resembling balance. Next Monday, my phone lit up with Mom's name for the 3rd time that day. I let it ring, watching it eventually stop. Then I listened to the voicemail. Serenity, honey, her voice quavered. Your father hasn't been sleeping. His blood pressure is through the roof. Dr. Packard says this stress could trigger a cardiac event. A dramatic pause. Please, just talk to us. We're your family. I deleted the message. 6 similar voicemails had piled up over the past week, each one escalating the supposed health crisis. Yesterday, Dad had chest pains. Today, it was a potential heart attack. The doorbell rang. I checked the peephole, Aunt Marjorie, clutching her purse like a weapon. I cracked the door, keeping the chain on. You need to come home right now, she announced, no greeting. Your father is destroying himself over this ridiculous feud. It's not a feud, Aunt Marjorie. It's boundaries. Is that what you call abandoning your family? Her voice rose. When your parents are gone, you'll regret every second of this childish tantrum. I closed the door softly, resisting the urge to slam it. My hands trembled, not from guilt, but from a surge of anger and a deep, solid certainty. 3 weeks ago, I would have been pulling on my coat, rushing to fix everything. Now, I walked back to my laptop, continuing to review the documentation my financial advisor had helped me compile. The next morning, a notice was taped to my apartment door, a complaint. About excessive noise, reported anonymously to building management. Pure fiction. I'd barely made a sound in weeks. At work, Linda, my boss, called me into her office. Someone named Douglas Blake called yesterday, asking about your employment history, she said, tapping her pencil. Said he was doing a reference check. My stomach dropped. That's my father, I whispered. She nodded, understanding washing over her face. I thought so. Told him all reference checks go through HR. You okay? I forced a nod, but the room felt suddenly small, suffocating. Dad was targeting my job now. That evening, I spotted Mrs. Hensley, my parents' neighbor of 20 years, at the grocery store. Our eyes met, and she quickly turned her cart down another aisle. The message was crystal clear. I was the villain in their story. By Thursday, the family pressure reached its absolute peak. Mom called, sobbing that I'd been cut from the will. Dad emailed, demanding I attend a family reconciliation dinner at their house Friday night. Final chance to make things right, the email concluded. I called Rachel immediately. They're pulling out all the stops, I told her, pacing my living room. Are you going? She asked. Yes, I said, stopping. But not alone. Friday evening arrived with a clarity I'd never experienced. I parked outside my parents' house, the same split level where I'd learned that love always came with conditions. James Dawson, my financial advisor, sat beside me in his crisp suit, portfolio in hand. "Remember," he said, his voice calm, "this isn't about punishment. It's about options." I nodded, my throat tight, but my resolve firm. "Let's go." Dad opened the front door before we reached it. His expression shifted from expectant to utterly confused when he spotted James. "What's this about?" he demanded. "I brought someone to help us communicate clearly," I replied, walking past him into the house. Mom and Isla sat at the dining room table, both looking up with identical expressions of surprise. The table was set for dinner, but a notepad and calculator were positioned precisely at what would be my place. They expected me to come alone, checkbook in hand. "Everyone," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "this is James Dawson, my financial advisor." James nodded professionally. "Good evening." Dad's face flushed a deep, angry red. "We don't need outsiders in family business." "Actually," I said, placing my own portfolio on the table, "that's exactly what we need." I opened the leather binder, revealing neatly organized pages of financial records. This wasn't the emotional reconciliation they expected. "I love you all," I said, looking at each of them. "But love doesn't pay my bills or secure my future." James stepped forward, taking over with calm professionalism. "Miss Blake asked me to analyze her financial situation in relation to her family. What we found was concerning." He placed a single sheet on the table, a timeline of every loan I'd provided over 5 years, with exact dates and amounts. The total at the bottom read, $33,480. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Isla stared at the number, blinking rapidly. "This represents approximately 28% of Miss Blake's total income during this period," James continued, "and significantly impacts her retirement projections." He slid another document forward, a comparison chart showing Isla's spending patterns versus her claimed emergencies, designer furniture, weekend trips, exclusive restaurant bills. "That's private information," Isla protested, her voice rising. "It's information directly tied to funds taken from Serenity," James corrected her. Dad stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. You can't come in here with some stranger and make accusations." "These aren't accusations," I interrupted him. "They're facts. Numbers don't lie, Dad." James presented the final document, 3 potential paths forward. Complete financial separation. A structured repayment plan. A formal loan agreement for any future assistance. The room fell utterly silent. Dad stared at the papers, his mouth working, but no sound came out. Mom's eyes filled with genuine tears, not the performative ones I'd seen manipulate situations for decades. "I didn't realize it was so much," Isla whispered, tracing the total with her fingertip. "We've taken advantage of you," Mom said softly, not meeting my eyes. Dad tried once more. "James, was it? I think we can handle this without accountability?" I finished. "That's why we're here tonight." I stood, gathering my original documents, but leaving copies on the table. "Take some time," I said. "Think about which option works for you. Call me when you're ready to discuss them." I walked toward the door, James following silently. No one tried to stop me. No emotional outbursts. Just the crushing weight of irrefutable evidence left on a table where, for once, I wasn't serving everyone else. Outside, the evening air filled my lungs like pure freedom. My shoulders, perpetually tense for years, finally relaxed. "You did well in there," James said. I nodded, looking back at the house where my family sat confronting the truth. For the first time, I actually thought they heard me. We walked to our cars, the streetlights illuminating a path forward I never thought possible, one where love and boundaries could coexist, where my worth wasn't measured in dollars drained from my account. My phone stayed silent that night. No urgent calls, no manipulative texts. Just the peaceful sound of a truth finally spoken aloud, and the quiet beginning of whatever came next. The morning sun warms my balcony, a new kind of peace settling over me as I cradle my coffee mug. 6 months. 6 months since I put a wall between my family and my finances. And my savings account? It finally broke the 5-figure mark. The Seattle skyline stretches before me, no longer a daunting vista of buildings I could never afford, but my actual view. My view. I take a slow sip, savoring the rich Colombian blend I splurged on last week, without a single thought about how many hours I'd need to work to justify it. That old, toxic mental math, dividing every purchase by my hourly wage, has faded like an unwelcome houseguest who finally took the hint. My phone buzzes. Once, that sound would have sent my blood pressure soaring, anticipating another family crisis. Now, I check the screen with steady hands. Congratulations on closing day. First round's on me tonight. Rachel. I smile, tapping a quick reply. The condo keys in my pocket feel substantial, not just cold metal, but the solid weight of choices made and held firm through storms of guilt and manipulation. The savings account that funded this down payment bears the same name as the one my father and sister had drained for years, Serenity's future. Only now it actually is. My phone chimes again. Isla's name appears. And my stomach no longer plummets. Hey, big sis, any chance you could spot me $600 until payday? Car payments due, and I'm short again. Promise I'll pay back as soon as possible. Love you. I read it twice, recognizing the familiar tactics, the diminutive big sis, the specific amount small enough to seem reasonable, the hint of urgency, the promise that would never materialize, the affection tacked on as insurance. 6 months ago, I would have transferred the money before even finishing her message, desperate to feel needed, to earn that brief sunshine of family approval. Today, I typed a different response. I can help you create a budget that works with your income if you want. I'm free Tuesday evening. Send. No anxiety. No second guessing. Just clarity. The coffee tasted even better now. My weekly planner sits open on the small teak table I bought myself as a housewarming gift. Sundays, once completely consumed by manufactured family emergencies, now hold a standing date with myself, a jog along the waterfront, a fresh pastry from the corner bakery, an hour with a good book. Simple pleasures that feel nothing short of revolutionary. You're different, Marcus had said at work last week, after I presented the quarterly projections with a confidence my previous self wouldn't recognize. In a good way. Like you finally believe what you're worth. The promotion that followed came partly from that new certainty, that presence that no longer apologized for taking up space. This Sunday, my phone rings. Mom? I answer, my voice even. Serenity, honey. Her tone lacks the frantic edge it once carried. Just checking what time you're coming tonight. 7, like we planned. I've got the cake. Perfect. A pause. Douglas is grilling those salmon fillets you like. The mention of my father by his first name, my choice, established in therapy as a tiny, necessary rebellion against parental authority, no longer sounded strange to either of us. Sounds nice, I say, meaning it. Mom's voice softens. Isla bought me a lovely scarf. Saved up for it special. The pride in her voice mirrors what she once reserved exclusively for my sister's charm or my financial help. But this pride celebrates something healthier, Isla taking small, tentative steps toward responsibility. That's good to hear. After we hang up, I open my journal, another Sunday morning ritual. Today's entry is brief. My value isn't measured by what I provide. Love without conditions isn't really love at all. Later, sliding books onto new shelves in my condo, my phone signals a voicemail. Mom again. Just wanted to say, her voice catches slightly. I'm proud of who you've become, Serenity. Who you always were. Beneath what we demanded of you. Evening finds me back on the balcony, chamomile tea in hand, watching city lights blink on like stars. The building I work in, the Space Needle, the water reflecting everything twice. I write one last journal entry before bed. Boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're foundations that let me stand secure. I didn't lose my family. I found myself. Tomorrow, a young colleague, who reminds me of my old self, will ask for advice about her parents' financial expectations. I'll share resources, offer support, pass along the name of my therapist. This quiet advocacy feels like closing a circle. But tonight, this moment belongs just to me. A rare and perfect sufficiency.